Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin DiBiase. I'm the consultant project manager from Urban Engineers on behalf of SJTPO, the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization, Cumberland County, and the city of Millville. I'm here to present on the Public Information Center for High Street and 3rd Street and Wheaton Avenue pedestrian safety improvements. So to give you a background of where we are with this project, this is a federally funded project, and with that, we follow the federal process. So currently, we are at the end of what's called preliminary engineering. Following preliminary engineering, we will get our environmental document reviewed and approved, and after that, we will enter into final design, and we're anticipating, if all goes well, to be in construction in the year 2027.
How long, sorry,
Well,
how
yeah,
long should it go, the project? How long will it be?
probably one construction season, so that's like 6 to 9 months. Yeah. There's a question about how long will the construction occur, and like I answered one construction season anticipated, but we're in final design. We'll work on a construction schedule to like lay out all that stuff. So that's just a rough estimate. So for the agenda, we'll talk about the project background, the locations of the two projects, the existing conditions, what we're proposing for improvements, and then we'll take any questions at the end. Okay, so the project background, these two projects came out of the Cumberland County Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. And in 2022, Cumberland County adopted that plan. This was a collaborative effort between SJTPO, the counties, the municipalities, and their consultants to identify, look at crashes in all the quarters of the county and identify clusters and hotspots. And out of that study came some suggestions and recommendations for some of those problem corridors, and that's where these two projects emanated from. And in 2023, the federal funds that I mentioned were secured to advance the two projects. And in 2024, the preliminary engineering phase began. As I mentioned, we were currently at the end of preliminary engineering. So the purpose and need of the project, the purpose is to provide safety improvements through the design and implementation of multimodal and traffic calming solutions. The need, I'll get into the crashes a little bit in a few slides, but 153 crashes within the 5 years that we studied on High Street within the project limits between the years 2018 to 2022, and 79 crashes within the 3rd Street and Wheaton Avenue project limits during that same time. And these safety improvements are necessary to achieve the Target Zero Commission goal of eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries in New Jersey by 2040. So first, we will cover the High Street project. Here's a map of the High Street project corridor. The boundaries are from a little bit past Harrison Avenue, as you can see on the map here, and then out on the boards that we'll chat about in a sec. Harrison Avenue to Main Street. The corridor is located within the central business district of downtown Millville, and the corridor is very active with heavy pedestrian traffic, transversing the corridor to visit popular destinations such as Rowan College of South Jersey Arts and Innovation Center, the Lavoie Theater, and the other restaurants in the Glasstown Arts District. The existing conditions, took several field walks. Here's some photos, but it is a 25 miles an hour posted speed limit. Not everybody goes 25, but it's posted at 25. It's in the urban major collector and a 2-lane cross section for the length of the project here. So as I mentioned, 153 crashes during that time period that was studied in just over a mile of road, 1.1 miles. Of those 153, there were 8 of those were pedestrian crashes. For the severities, there were no fatal crashes, thankfully, but however, there were several injury crashes, 3 suspected serious injury, 15 minor injury, 39 possible, and 96 no apparent injury. So what's on the screen now is just a map of hotspots or crash clusters. You can see all the blue locations are where there were greater than 4 crashes. You see that crashes within the corridor are concentrated at intersections, with the exception to the cluster of crashes between Foundry and Harrison Ave. And you can see that there were the pedestrian crashes also within the corridor there in yellow. Or actually the little walk guy there. The crash types is something we look at when we look at designing safety improvements. So 45% of crashes were right angle crashes, 16% were rear end crashes, 12% were same direction side swipe crashes. So we found speeding to be the general cause for crash types. Speeding vehicles increase the possibility of right angle crashes at unsignalized intersections, as we have a lot of these on High Street. And as motorists cross High Street or merge onto High Street, they're not given enough time to safely clear the intersection or are not seen by approaching motorists until it's too late. So I'm going to walk through the whole project corridor, but here is just a bullet list of some of the proposed improvements. So there will be repaving of the corridor, ADA and curb ramp improvements. And under that heading will be curb extensions. I'll get into that in the next slide, a little bit more about those. There will be some drainage improvements as we change the curb lines. We're going to have to update the drainage that goes along with that. We're going to refresh the signage and striping to make sure they're all up to MUTCD code. And there won't be any right-of-way takings here, only temporary easements to accommodate driveway construction, tie everything in. And we don't anticipate, this is just for High Street now, we don't anticipate utility relocations for High Street. That's currently. And then also lighting improvements at pedestrian crossings. So where pedestrians are crossing, we have evaluated the lighting levels and recommending adding LED lights to the crossings, but mainly on existing utility poles. Another thing I'll mention are the traffic signals. So the two existing signals at Mulberry and Harrison, we will be upgrading those signals, but we will also be installing a new signal at Vine Street after we did a traffic warrant analysis during our design and determined that it was warranted. So we'll start on Main Street and I'll just walk down the corridor here for everybody. See the repaving and the parking. We'll have raised pavement markings throughout the job, high visibility crosswalks, and these curb extensions. Basically, this black line is the curb that gets bumped out and extends the sidewalk. And curb extensions increase the visibility for both drivers and pedestrians while reducing the distance needed for pedestrians to safely cross High Street. And curb extensions, when they're placed at the entrance to a corridor, can serve as a gateway treatment, indicating to motorists that there is a slower speed limit within the road segment. Also, curb extensions reduce the radius of the curb. So it causes vehicles to turn more slowly, basically, around corners. So another improvement for pedestrians. So in other words, too, if on the existing condition where my mouse is now, if pedestrians were crossing from here with these parked vehicles along here, a car may not see a pedestrian until very late. But with these curb extensions, it brings the pedestrians closer to the traffic. The site is better for the pedestrians and the drivers, and it reduces the amount of crossing that they have to do as well. This is an example, and it's kind of hard to see that screen, but this is a job that we just recently did in Somerset County that had a lot of curb extensions, and it's working out really well. Similar pedestrian improvement project. So heading down the corridor here, there's the Lavoie, here's New Pine Street, and similar curb extensions here. I will point out the high visibility crosswalks I mentioned. You could see, this is what you typically see at usually intersections for crosswalks, but high visibility crosswalks are these bottom two types. Now these crosswalks use patterns that are visible to both the driver and pedestrian from farther away compared to traditional transverse line crosswalks. So added safety benefit for that as well. Two signals I mentioned earlier, but Mulberry Street and Vine Street. Mulberry is the existing signal, and Vine Street is the new signal. So I mentioned we did a traffic warrant analysis, and when we looked at all of the crashes over that time period, it did warrant a new signal at Vine Street. And also you can see the curb extensions incorporated with with the signals. Heading to the north, Oak Street, much of the same here with the curb extensions. I'll mention too that I mentioned that some of the driveway reconstructions to make these ADA compliant. Those will be throughout the corridor as well. Heading north, is that showing up that good? Yeah. So heading north, we're installing a mid-block crossing between Depot Street and Powell Street. This is called an RRFB, a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. You can see the picture of the guy. It's a push button that you push and it activates the amber lights so that you can cross and highlights to drivers that they have to yield to the pedestrians at that crossing. RFBs can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 47% and motorist yielding rates up to 98% based on studies. Also here, you can see the curb is actually taken in here, and this is a mid-block curb extension. Now, curb extensions can also be applied to mid-blocks to slow traffic speeds and add public space, plantings or grass. When utilized as a traffic calming treatment, these mid-block extensions, also referred to as pinch points or chokers, can reduce traveling speeds by up to 4 to 5 miles per hour and encourage driver attention to other roadway users. Green Street and McNeil Street, similar of the curb extensions for the crossings. And I'll touch on, so this is Foundry Street. So north of Foundry Street, the existing section is around 72 feet in width. This is almost double the width of the rest of High Street. This oversized section of High Street extends from Foundry Street to the intersection of High and Sharp Street. Oversized roadways tend to create many negative impacts, such as cars traveling at excessive, dangerous speeds. They see more pavement, they think they can go faster. We're proposing that the roadway be repurposed to reflect its size and function. This is commonly referred to as right-sizing the roadway. So the right sizing continues here, where we repurpose some of that extra pavement here. This wide section of High Street currently functions as a 2-lane roadway. It was previously designed for 4 lanes built, but it is only 2 lanes currently. It only needs to be 2 lanes from a traffic perspective. With only simple restriping, the roadway can be repurposed to function more efficiently and safely, taking advantage of the unutilized pavement with a center left turn lane that can be installed along with roadway shoulders and parking. So this image here, and it's tough to see again, I apologize, but you can see where the existing pavement is versus where the curb will be coming in on the north side there. And still able to accommodate a shoulder, parking, 2-way left turn lane, and 2 lanes of traffic. And I might mention less flooding because less pavement means less impervious surfaces. Okay, so we traverse to the north to Harrison Avenue for this existing signal. Oops, let me go back. So we're able to add left turn lanes on High Street at the Harrison Avenue signal. Also, that wide distance for pedestrians to cross High Street, will be installing bump outs, curb extensions there to reduce the crossing distance I mentioned before. And the 2-way left turn lane terminates here just south of Elizabeth Street, and our project ends at this location for High Street. All right, so now we're gonna take a breath. I'll get a sip of water. We'll talk about Wheaton Ave and 3rd Street. Okay. All right, so we're going to present on the 3rd Street and Wheaton Avenue project just to the south of High Street, or east, I guess. So the 3rd Street corridor project boundaries are from Main Street to G Street. My pointer back here. And then also encompasses this portion of G Street and Wheaton Avenue from 3rd to G Street as well. The existing conditions, it's located within The Center City neighborhood of Millville. This neighborhood is the residential core of the city of Millville, with a few commercial locations, but mostly residential. And residents often walk or bike to High Street in this location. It's a 25 miles per hour posted speed limit with a 2-lane cross section. Some photos from the field walk. So the crash data, I mentioned before, there were 79 crashes during the time period we looked at it. For severities, thankfully there were no fatal crashes. However, there were several, injury crashes. 1 suspected serious injury, 10 suspected minor, 14 possible injury crashes, and 54 no apparent injury crashes. The crash types, over half were 55% were right angle crashes and 15% were rear end crashes. So the proposed improvements, some of these are similar to High Street, some are a little different, but the repaving will also occur within the project limits. ADA and curb ramp improvements with those curb extensions will also take effect here. Drainage improvements, signage and striping. There's one partial right-of-way take where the traffic signal is, show that, and limited utility pole relocations. And there's some traffic circulation changes that I will discuss in a couple slides here. And the signal at G Street and Wheaton will be redone. We'll show that in a slide as well. All right, so the existing configuration here, as you can see, the grid network is mostly these roads come in at 90 degrees to each other. The Wheaton corridor here to 3rd Street is at a skew, which provides some problems. There were 61 total crashes. So the Wheaton Avenue section represented around 47% of all crashes within the corridor and 53% of all right angle crashes. So these these intersections definitely were a highlight of as far as safety perspective. And these intersections are at acute angles, and roads intersecting at acute angles, they require extensive turning roadway areas, and they tend to limit visibility for cars. It's hard to see when you're at a stop sign and you have to really crane your neck. Acute angle intersections force motorists to perform large turns in order to determine when it is safe to maneuver. And realigning roadways that intersect at 90 degrees increases the overall safety of the intersection, slows cars down, and increases visibility of motorists and pedestrians as well. So this project is proposing to reroute through traffic headed towards Wheaton. They're rerouted to G Street and then up G Street and then a left on 3rd Street for through traffic. A secondary route that may be utilized is Delsey, Route 47, I should say. And Wheaton Avenue would become a local traffic one-way, as you can see here with the arrow. In this proposed reconfiguration, Wheaton will function as a one-way road serving primarily local traffic, so it will be less traffic and traveling at lower speeds. Motorists traveling across Wheaton will now only need to consider traffic coming from one direction, not two, and it will greatly decrease conflict points between vehicles and reduce the traffic volume that cuts through the street grid on Wheaton. So this is at the top here where the D Street triangle where 3rd Street intersects Wheaton. Currently, this intersection provides traffic circulation in all directions, in both directions at every approach, creates a large number of potential conflicts between all of the cars that can be making these movements here. To improve the safety within the corridor, realigning the angle of the intersection closer to 90 degrees is proposed. This reduces the speed of turning vehicles and calms traffic along Wheaton. So you can see all the conflict points that could happen in that short area by simply teeing this up and having Wheaton as a one-way local road. We reduce a lot of the conflict points. In addition, converting the two-way traffic to one-way will dramatically decrease the number of conflict points, traffic safety, and operational concerns. I apologize, I just said that. So now I'll just, we have some boards over there for Third and Wheaton as well. We can discuss that, but I'll just go through it on the slides for everybody, virtually as well. So on Third Street, heading to the north here, we mentioned the, this might be it's a little more zoomed out, so it might be harder to see, but the curb extensions that we applied for High Street will also be applied on Third Street for pedestrian safety improvements, crossing the street and for, traffic calming to try to get cars to visually, slow down and physically. We'll also be doing raised pavement markings, high visibility crosswalks, mentioned that for the High Street corridor, so I won't describe those again. So we head past the train tracks, Vine and Oak, similarly, raised pavement markings, high visibility crosswalks, curb extensions. Our project has a gap at Broad Street where Broad Street project actually, we are stopping and our jurisdiction goes the other side here, Broad Street. So this is a zoom in of that D Street triangle. We'll look at it in a little more detail over there, but you can see the 90-degree turn now, and then the local access to Wheaton this way. The freeway, the intersections on East Street and Wheaton and F Street and Wheaton will only be a three-way stop now, instead of having to deal with the through traffic and trucks coming through Wheaton. Both of these, East Street and F Street, will be three-way stops. One thing I wanted to mention at G Street, so I mentioned that we're sending cars from the Wheaton intersection with G Street up and then to the left on Third Street that would have been using Wheaton Avenue. So as part of that, we're adding a left turn lane. We looked at a signal warrant for this with the added traffic, but the volumes would not warrant a traffic signal here, but we are doing some improvements as far as curbing in this left turn lane for traffic that will now be emanating from G Street, turning on to Third Street. This is the bottom portion here at the signal with G Street. I'll zoom in a little bit more. So people that are coming down to Wheaton here that want to they would come down to 4th Street here and then continue on to Wheaton this way. And the signal at Wheaton, you would go, there's a left turn and a right turn lane. So traffic that wanted to go through will now head up towards 3rd Street, will come up G and then make a left on 3rd. And one of the decisions that was made was to not force all of that traffic that was coming on Wheaton onto 4th Street, since it's a local street with local residents. So this is a right turn only and a left turn only. So traffic would, if they wanted to go left, they would just make a left, go to 5th Street and then come back up here. Also, there would be, I think I have a zoom in on here. Yeah. There's this difficult right turn lane to head on Wheaton here. There's going to be a right turn slip lane that will be constructed and widened at this location to make this right turn easier for vehicles. That's all I have. We have the boards there that have a little bit more detail that we can go over. But I encourage everybody ask questions. We have comment boxes up here. We also have a project website listed at the bottom of the screen here. That's going to have all this information. We're recording this, so everyone's encouraged to provide their input and visit the website and yeah, let us know what you think. But that's it for me. So for you guys in attendance, if you want to ask questions, or we could take this over to the boards and look at it a little bit more in there. So yes, yeah.
Okay. On Wheaton Avenue between D and G, are there going to be sidewalk improvements or curb improvements?
On Wheaton, between D.
And G.
That's where, yeah, down here. Right?
So on Wheaton Avenue.
Yeah, on Wheaton. I think let's look at the board. I don't have. Do you have the PDF of like the whole area? If I have that up here.
That's, I'm not broadcasting to the TV.
Okay. Why don't we take a walk over there and we'll look. If we don't have it, we could always add it too. But yeah, after we'll walk over there and take a look. So. All right, for the recording, I guess we'll stop the recording now and then we'll just migrate over there, take a look.
Okay.
All right, thanks for joining us. For those of you online, have a good night.